Okay. I know, it's loud like that. Does that screw anybody's audio up? Is that okay, Kristen, if I hold it down there? You guys good where you have your camera angle? Everything okay? We're going to wait for Cuviello to stop.
I'll be all right.
Stop making all the noise and get his questions ready. So I'm going to just go ahead and tell you guys thank you for coming here. This is an update. I also have Councilman Tips here kind of standing off to the side because he and I had spoken before this and just thought, well, you know, in case the media needs any other reflection from any other council, we've got another one available. If you guys have additional questions, feel free to ask him directly. I would like to just go ahead and tell you this is really our second update. We had a meeting last Tuesday. I thought we did a really good job concerning this issue with the EDC and the range in having a good discussion where we said it very frankly. We let all points be known. We shared our concerns. We kind of shared a little bit of the history, kind of gave a good recap on what had taken place. We have gone through a week, and it appears to me like we are not reporting and maybe messaging the facts as much as I think we can. And so I want to take an opportunity here today to just continue to speak to you. I also know that this is going to take a minute. So we're not going to have an answer here today for you. We're not going to have an answer for you next week. So next Tuesday, we'll take another opportunity to give you another update, tell you how we're coming on the financial review. And then I hope by next Tuesday we would be in a position where we would either be in possession of that data that we're waiting on or close enough to it where we could give you maybe a projected expectation of this is where we hope to end up before long. So if you're okay, I'm going to take just a minute to walk you through a brief update and to recap what I'm trying to make sure that we're driving home as the main points of what Council's obligation is and their mission is here. And then I'm glad to take any and all questions. And we're just going to do this in an open forum, and you guys can ask any question you like, and I'll answer every one of them, even if it's not anything that I have a final answer on. We can be very direct. This is a fairly sensitive issue. All economic development can be controversial. It all has that same flavor, and you have to manage it very well. And the only way to really manage any of it, I think, in any population of any size, is to be totally upfront and transparent. And so I believe our EDC has had some business practices, and they move pretty fast, and some of the business practices they've had have come to light here on this one issue. We are talking about the range. We're not necessarily going to walk around anything or try to tiptoe around any of the subject matter. I think we're just going to speak to it as best we can. And then let you know, in the way in which this is a sensitive issue, we want to be as upfront and we want to be as proactive as we can be, understanding that if we were dealing with a department, if we were dealing with something that we had more control over inside of the City Hall, it allows for different procedures because we are in this issue where we have a procurement issue. So to go back, we had a $100,000 line item budget that was given to the council when I sat on it as place one. We voted for that. That item was then changed from $100,000 to $250,000. And then it was advanced for 3 years up front. So it ended up at $750,000. So that's an unlawful action in the way in which that's not proper procurement. So hear me say this again. That's not an illegal action. That's an unlawful action. You have to follow certain guidelines, specifically 501.073. You know, this body that we sit on right now must approve the expenditures. Well, you can approve expenditures with a budget, and you can have line items on a budget, and you can approve them for the full year. They don't come back to council. Or you can have expenditures that are approved individually. This item was approved for $100,000. It was not approved for $750,000. We are compelled legally under the law to have proper oversight of that measure. Now, I think what has been communicated in the public is that this council somehow is going backwards. We're okay with it. It's nothing we're going to hold to account. We just wanted to come out, maybe change a few governance and ends policies, maybe put a new policy in so it doesn't happen again. No, hear us say, we haven't taken a step back. We haven't backed up from it. What we said is good leadership requires all of the data. It requires a complete understanding of what's happened. And so we don't have the data. We, as a council, came together and decided it would be very beneficial if we had a 3-year look back to get the entire financial review so we can identify, do we have a one-time issue where, hey, we had an unlawful issuance of an expenditure, but it only happened once? Or do we have a business practice? Do we have a practice of doing business that allows for this over and over? Because if it does, then I'm going to tell you, we went from having a large problem to having a huge issue. And so with that, we're going to have to take different measures in correcting that. This council is full, well, willing, and able to hold our board, our AEDC board, and their actions to full account. We're going to hold them to the same account that we're holding ourselves to. So I just want you guys to know we're not giving a measure that's one-sided or this way inside, that way outside. It's the account that I hold myself to. I would not do this. I would not advance $750,000 without the consent of my council and without a proper vote. My community doesn't allow for us to operate this way, and they need to see that we're willing to stand on that transparency and that fact and that truth. So we want to set the record straight here today and make sure that you guys understand the one thing that you're not giving us is time. And so I've heard everything from, disappointment. This council is no better than the rest of the governments that we can't believe in. We've lost trust. We've lost faith. We've lost confidence. Based on what? 2 weeks of us having an issue that we've actually been able to come together and properly discuss, based on us wanting to take the steps that we need to make sure that we don't overcorrect and that we don't assume something that we don't know. So time is something that it takes in order to walk this out. It doesn't mean that we're not willing to walk it out with integrity. It just means that we want to get the financial review so we can see everything we're dealing with before we look at a public discussion in front of you all and with our public again of what's the right measure of correctness here or correction. And so with this, nobody's saying this isn't a large issue. Nobody's saying this is okay. Nobody's saying that we should look the other way. We are saying let us go do the work. And quite frankly, many of my critics out there, they're not the ones doing the work. So we're the only ones doing the work. We are the ones, this servant body up here, we are taking our time to ask these questions, to go and get the data, to put it on a spreadsheet, to bring everything to light, to organize it, and to try to lead in a professional way so that when we deliver it to you, it doesn't leave anything up for chance or for doubt where you guys don't understand maybe, oh, that's what happened. This is the right, next step. So I want to tell you just a little bit about the status. So Neil Gerber is our internal auditor. He started on this well over a week ago. He has compiled the numbers for year 24, for year 23. He's working for year 22. He thinks he'll have a preliminary compilation of all of those, all of that data within another 7 to 10 days. And so what he won't have is he won't have all the supporting documents. He'll probably need a few weeks after that to actually complete his task. However, this council needs this data sooner rather than later so that we can start evaluating it. It's going to come to us in the form of a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet's going to say, here's the check number or the wire transfer number, here's the date, here's the vendor that it went to, here's the amount that it went to, here is where it was budgeted. And for the amount, it was approved, yes, or it was not approved, no. Here's where it wasn't budgeted. You'll see a 0 in that column. And then here's the contact person for where that money went. So here's who we're transacting with in our community. A spreadsheet that comes together like that's very, very helpful. It allows us an opportunity to review it. And then what we are trying to do is we're trying to have good policies moving forward, but we're willing to go backwards and to take a corrective action if needed. And so we don't know the level of that correction yet, so that's why we are being a little cautious in not wheeling everybody out here and making an assumption that we know everything. We don't yet. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate your cooperation. I do appreciate your understanding in this is a difficult job. This is not something that we were prepared to handle. We are trying to do it with integrity and in a professional way. And all we're really asking for is just a little time. And then I just want everybody to hear us say again, like, we didn't step back. We didn't take no correction. We did not say that everything that has been done was agreed upon and done in the proper steps. What I did hear one media outlet say is that we agreed that this was legal. Hear me say it was an unlawful procurement, though it was not illegal. So there is some terminology there that we need to make sure we're very specific on. I don't have a whole lot to offer outside of that. We'll have those numbers hopefully next week. We'll have some start on that, and within 2 to 3 weeks, I think we'll have a conclusion on this. I am going to get out in front of this and continue to speak, continue to answer questions. We will continue to do follow-ups with each media outlet so that you guys can report accurately. And I want to represent the council well because the council represents you. And so we all want Amarillo to be represented in the form and the fashion that it is. And, you know, we take our time, we do things right, we hold each other accountable here, and that's what we're saying. Would ask if anybody has any questions for myself or anyone else here today. Yes, sir.
So when did council and yourself first become aware of this change in from 100,000 to 250,000?
So I became aware of it at this point, I want to say probably 6 weeks ago, maybe 5. And so it was brought by a citizen. I took a week and a half or so to evaluate it, go back through staff, see what I could find. It's probably a little further than that now. These calendars run together. It might have actually been 8 weeks ago now. Mr. Path, you've been on for 7? Yeah, so it'd be 8 weeks by now. But this is something that was brought to me. We took a few steps in the way of trying to figure out what's our oversight? What's our role here? Is this something that did indeed happen? And then we asked some good questions to try to figure out what we need to know. That led to a couple meetings. One criticism that we've had is how come you guys aren't just doing everything in public? How come we're not calling everybody here? Why is the AEDC not here with you right now to do a joint press conference? It's not appropriate. This is an oversight body, and we are overseeing that board, and we're overseeing this action. And so it's important that our public see us working independently as one body, even though we're working together with that EDC board. They've been forthcoming. They've said, hey, anything you want to know, we'll tell you. We've asked some questions. We don't have answers to all those, but we've been working on this for a minute, just in the way it got brought to us, but then only for around 2 to 3 weeks as a collective body.
As you see this going forward, and I'm sure you're leaving everything on the table, but I'm wondering, have people inquired if you should see a change in leadership in AEDC?
Yes, I think that has been a discussion that both bodies have discussed, and everybody has an opinion on that, and so that is something that would be a discussion point depending on what that financial review comes back like.
You mentioned the term unlawful, not illegal. If once y'all have the spreadsheet and look over things, is there like a level of unlawfulness that would create certain circumstances, and up to what circumstances could be involved?
So let me not speculate on next steps. So the action that we know about, the 100 to the 750 and that fund that was issued, that is an unlawful procurement of those funds in this is my opinion, this is what I believe the council has been updated from a couple different legal entities. That I'm sure could be argued. From there, If we see some other things that don't check out on the reconciliation of the financial review, it may be in the hands of council to continue in the oversight. Council would also have an investigation right if they felt the need to formalize an investigation if we weren't getting the facts, which we are. And then it would be handed off to another entity if it became anything that was illegal.
And you said you became aware of this about a month ago or something like that.
Well, originally, I believe it was probably 7-8 weeks ago that the first document was presented. But yes, I want to tell you we've been engaged for over a month now, and really as a body only working on this for several weeks.
And I just want to clarify, so within budgets, each year when y'all overseeing how money was spent, it's basically like they spent their budget, so this would not be something that kind of popped up in a regular oversight.
So let me answer that very specifically, and then we'll come right back to you. So this is a budget line item, and this one issue with the range was noticed to the public for $100,000. And that budget line item sits in that form of an approval. They have other budgets that were not line itemed, and they have other disposable funds that they do get to use. However, this item was changed, not noticed, and not voted on before it was funded. And that's the reason for stating that that's an unlawful procurement. Yes, ma'am.
So it kind of feeds into what you were just talking about. When we had heard that some of that extra money, the budget, came from other subcategories that were under budget. Is that the part that is unlawful?
I think that the practice of balancing a budget within an entity, especially a nonprofit, is something that can be done. And do you always have to have every item line itemed? You do not. However, when you represent an item for a certain amount, and then you change that amount, and then you advance it 3 years in advance, what you've done essentially is you've taken a representative and you've removed their voting rights. So my council wasn't allowed to vote for this. My council wasn't allowed to get a update from the range or to get behind this this potential membership as it was represented. So in doing that, that action has become more damaging than we ever would have expected because we didn't go through the proper steps in order to pay for that and to gain the support that was needed. So had that never been listed as $100,000 and then changed to the $750 and funded in that way, or the $250 and then funded up to the $750, I think you could make an argument of, well, we're just working within discretionary, revenues that they don't necessarily have to come to council. We're within our budget. I would argue that 501.073 is pretty black and white. This authorizing unit is responsible to approve all of the expenditures. And so at some point, you knew you had to come and get an authorization and an approval for the 100, and you chose not to come back for the 750. Follow up?
Yes, so there's also been a lot of question. We have mentioned Kevin Carter is the president and CEO, and he's also a board member of the range. Conflict of interest. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my least favorite word in the world is optics. So, I really enjoy doing my job here and representing the people of Amarillo. And I do the best job when I don't care what it looks like and I'm not worried about the optics. However, in this instance, when you're in a position of authority and leadership, you have a greater responsibility on your shoulders. And so you have to avoid even the appearance of evil. And so whether he was doing anything that was conflicting or not, it doesn't look well in the optics and in that fashion. So do we want to put ourselves in those positions? Ultimately, we don't, and we try to avoid that. So I would tell you not specifically a conflict of interest, but not a good look.
And I got one more question on the budget.
You're not even going to let the other people go
they
before.
But they weren't speaking,
Yeah.
so
Mr. Cuviela. Okay,
so
sure.
We talked about last meeting that you was gonna hold off on the budget. With this process going for AEDC, could the budget be pushed back a great amount more?
So the budget in and of itself is not an issue. Right. The AEDC budget in and of itself is not an issue because they're going to revenue the amount of monies that they're going to revenue. And their expenditures are all in line with what we want to see them spending to carry out the vision. The issue is we don't have hard and fast governance policies in line with that entity right now, and we need that. So we took a measure, last meeting, to not approve their budget knowing that we have a little bit more time to handle items like this. Further discussion, further investigation, more look back, the ability to continue to somewhat communicate to our public. I think the message, if we had approved their budget, would have gone even further of, obviously y'all don't have an issue with this because you approved their budget. So we wouldn't expect any corrective action. I think you should expect that. And I think the reason that we did not want to put their budget up for a vote is we didn't want to miss message. And we tried hard not to do that. But like I said, we do have a few critics out there that they don't need you to do anything wrong for them to miss message of the community. So any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I had a couple clarifying questions. We heard a rumor that you specifically asked Kevin Carter and the board members of the AEDC to not attend last week's council meeting where you gave this public address. Can you confirm that?
I can confirm that that did not happen. So let me tell you that I did not tell Kevin Carter and the board members of the AEDC or the AEDC staff not to attend the meeting. What I did do in a meeting with their two subcommittee members, which is Scott Bentley and Andrew Hall, along with Les Simpson, in a discussion of, hey guys, this is what we're going to want to see. We like these three things you're asking for, or two out of the three, but I want three other things. Are you willing to bring those? Absolutely. Scott Bentley said, hey, I'm not aware of anything else, and if there is something else, I want to find it as much as you do. And so you guys do your financial review. Do you want us to come to your meeting? I was honest. No, I don't want you there. And here's why. I am trying to facilitate a conversation with my council. My discussion is with my council. It's a discussion item. It's not an action item. And I don't need a front row of people kind of bobbing their head and looking like they're in agreement when we are having a discussion, or potentially being drawn out to answer questions that they're not really at liberty to answer. Like, none of us have the financial reviews, and it's not an investigation. We didn't declare that. We don't want to bring our EDC out here and put them out with an incomplete plan in front of our public. That gives everybody in the media and those people that are watching an opportunity to misunderstand what our goal was. So was my preference to have them there? Now, I did tell them, I said, hey, you guys come if you'd like to. I'm definitely never going to stop anyone from coming to a public meeting. However, I don't need you there. Les was there as well. Les was like, yeah, man, we don't need that. So in the way in which a rumor maybe is taken off of, am I manipulating and trying to make this some way to hide the AEDC or keep them from being scrutinized? In no way, shape, or form. Am I trying to run a professional meeting? Absolutely. Good question. Yes, sir.
I had a few. First off, one of the biggest critics of this issue has been Michael Ford. He's also served as your campaign treasurer. I'm just curious, is he still serving as your campaign?
He is not. He resigned voluntarily several months back.
All right. I also know that even before these discussions were brought up, there were rumors that the council was looking at maybe expanding the size of the AEDC board, adding new members, such a point some more. Is that still in the cards?
That is still a topic for discussion. We have a consultant that was hired by the AEDC and is planning on coming here. I believe in October was the tentative date for a strategic business planning workshop. We want to work hand in hand with the AEDC through this issue, and then we really want to work with them through the next set of issues, which primarily our staff has had more issues with the EDC selling things that we don't have infrastructure in place of, and not knowing where we're at in the infrastructure build-out phases. And so there's a component that's missing in the communication piece there that we're trying to solve. And I think they see that, we see that, and we want to work together on it. Now, having greater representation in something like an economic development corp, why would you not want two more sharp, savvy business people that bring more expertise from developers or, say, international business? So, yes, it greatly would benefit the EDC to have two additional members.
And then one more, you kind of began by talking about how feel that has been misrepresented, that, you feel it's not true that the council didn't say that, y'all aren't going for accountability on this, and this might be better still note, Councilman Tips said at the meeting, quote, "There's no violation of policy that we can hold them accountable for." Was that an incorrect statement?
So I don't know exactly what you're referencing, but if you want to look at their policy, he's probably correct. They did not violate their policy. Now, you want to look at the state code and what 501073 requires and what is being advised to us from our legal counsel, that it is black and white and you must approve those, or there's an oversight body for you at the state. So yes, I think that they had an unlawful procurement. Now, was there a policy violated? I probably would tell you he's factually correct. I don't know that that's the intention of, well, we just can't hold them accountable. Absolutely not. And here's the other thing you got to hear us say. We are trying not to be the only ones holding them accountable. We are allowing for a time for them to hold themselves accountable. As other volunteers that get to serve on this board, they have an opportunity to do the right thing, to bring it out into public, to work with us, to admit, like, hey, could have done that better. As our director, Mr. Carter, has an opportunity, he went on a couple of radio podcasts, or shows, updates, to try to speak to it. And so they have an opportunity to work with us, and we're allowing for that. So I don't want anybody to walk out of here feeling like we're the authority and it's whatever we decide. Yes, we do have authority here to do this the right way and carry out this action with them. And I believe that that's the goal. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Your assertion of unlawful versus illegal, is that a personal opinion or a...
That's a legal opinion. So
is it an official position?
It is. Yeah, George Hyde offering that as our city, or not our city, our council attorney. And I've engaged with him multiple times, and it has not come back in any different form. 073 does state you will or you shall. And so the correct term for that is it an illegal action? I mean, no money was stolen. There's not a criminal issue here that's being investigated. This is an embezzlement. There's no crime that's committed. So what happened? Well, could we say it was inappropriate? Maybe. The technical term that he's used that I don't really care to back away from is unlawful. You did not follow the steps in the law. And so, in the football game, you step out of bounds, they blow the whistle. Like, you stepped out of bounds. Is the game over? No. Is the season ended? No. But were you out of bounds? Do you have to blow the whistle and line back up? Yeah, you do. And so I think that that's the analogy that I'm looking for here with that term. I saw another hand. Yes, sir.
Yeah, as this pans out, as it plays out, do you think that maybe more safeguards could be put in place, or maybe public oversight committees?
I definitely think that good policy should be put in place. I think we have been surprised as a council that there is such a lack of good policy here, and that there has been as much business that's taken place just in a relational way without good guidelines. And I would tell you that the EDC, 2 members that I met with, their complaint is, man, you got to give us more than this. You're holding us to this accountability, but then, man, I didn't get, these trainings. I didn't get this handbook. I want these things. And so they need those policies as well. I know you said last one, so you can't even raise your hand. Yeah, okay. Sorry. Yes, ma'am.
So you said that they're bringing in a consultant for a strategic plan. Do they not have a strategic plan as of now?
No, that was in our original meeting where we said, how do you guys know maybe what our infrastructure and our vision looks like with what you're doing for us? Because you're out there as great salesmen, right? And sales reps. They've done a fantastic job. I would challenge anybody to show that they haven't outsold by, I don't know, maybe 10x what we've seen done previously. The issue is we have salesmen that are out there selling a product that may not be on the shelf. And so as a good salesman, you come back, you say, well, I just make more. I need them this month. Well, it takes 12 months to make more. And we don't have that. So in the communication of going back and forth, this infrastructure is maxed. We're at capacity. Well, figure it out, guys, because we just sold another one. Okay, well, that's not a team environment where our staff is working hand in hand, proactively looking at that strategic business plan. So that's the primary need for that is if you're selling something in an incentive package, you're bringing a good company to town. We want to be able to perform on housing. We want to be able to perform on infrastructure, water, sewer, you name it. If we don't have a plan in place to grow our wastewater treatment plant to that capacity, and you're 3 years from opening your doors, we have a pretty big problem. Well, that lies in lack of good policy and lack of vision that's communicated in a strategic business plan. So I think this council's leadership role was, let's formalize that strategic business plan and let's try to get somebody, a consultant, that can come in here and help us do that. Great questions. Glad to get out of the way and step out from in front of the camera, but also don't want to not answer anything else.
Let me just ask you this. It seems like it came as a surprise to council. Does AEDC have a reporting policy in place where they go over a certain amount? Or in this case with the range where they have to say, hey, we asked you for 100K, but it's going to
Right.
50?
So two things. AEDC did point to city policy and some of the measures that say, hey, over $50,000, city manager, has to do this, but you guys also work from department fund to department fund at times to run your balanced budget. That was compiled with $1 million policy that I'm aware of. And so anytime there was an expenditure over $1 million, the board chair for the EDC was required to sign it. There was nothing that I've been made aware of that would require them to bring that back to council from their own policies. Okay? So separate, kind of bifurcate the issue of you may not have a policy in place. That doesn't negate the authority from the state in 073 that requires an approval on that. Now, you have a process for that. You can always go and do a budget amendment. You could always bring it back and say, hey, we've underspent over here. We want to do an amendment and increase it over here. Do we have your approval to do that? You see council do that from time to time. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Cuviello, one more. Okay.
You did 30 minutes. You've been a beast.
Anyone else? Let me close with this. I'm not done talking on this. Council has done absolutely nothing wrong. This council hadn't let you down, for one day in trying to show up and do the work and do the difficult work. We have chosen to stay silent sometimes when we don't know better because we've learned in an abundance of words, sometimes there's more criticism. And we don't know everything that we're trying to discuss and talk about. We're still learning. So we'd ask for your patience as we work through this. We will work through this. And we will continue to engage with you guys. So you'll see us continue to reach out. And next Tuesday, we'll be able to give you a better update on what those numbers look like coming back in this financial review process. Thank you guys for being here. And I really appreciate y'all live streaming everything and just letting the community see it so they can see what this looks like. Thank y'all. Don, you got off easy.